ॐ त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या सम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितप्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ॐ प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। Pranams everyone. We are starting this sessions again after a long break, I believe. So we are in the 16th chapter. So 16th chapter is Daivi Sampat. Daivi-Asura-Sampad. Basically it talks about the divine qualities and the negative qualities. So Bhagavan is actually enumerating all the divine qualities that one should have and all the negative qualities that one should actually let go or make sure that it doesn't get into our personality. And in that, Bhagavan started with the divine qualities first. And these divine qualities, as I said, is equally important even from material walks of life. From a material standpoint also, having these qualities will help us achieve things in the material world, what we term as success in the material world. But from a spiritual standpoint, these are necessary qualifications that one must have to be able to progress spiritually faster. And in this, Bhagavan started with Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi. He started with fearlessness or absence of fear as the first quality that a person must have. And we had seen so far, we are now in the third shloka, and so far we have seen about 25 different values. The last value that we saw was Shaucham and also Adroha. Adroha means basically not cheating anyone. So we in the last class we saw Saucham we did not go much in detail because we have already covered that in the 13th chapter. And then Adroha means being trustworthy. We saw that as well. So we'll have to pick on the last virtue, which is Naatimaanita. So we'll chant the sloka first, then we'll go. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tejah Shama Dhriti Shaucham Adroho Naatimaanita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivi Abhijatasya Bharata. Tejah Shama Dhriti Shaucham Adroho Naatimaanita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivi Abhijatasya Bharata. So here we had seen Tejaha, basically sharpness we saw, Kshama we saw as patience, fortitude, Dhritihi we saw that as willpower, Shaucham cleanliness, then Adroha being trustworthy, then the final one is Naatimaanita. Naatimaanita. Naatimaanita, we can all, in Sanskritam we say Atmani Pujyata Abhavaha. Basically, this is similar, we had seen this already. If you remember in the 13th chapter we saw this value already there. And then what it means, basically not considering oneself to be superior. Amanitvam, we saw that amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam. It's the same thing. Naatimaanita. Basically, not considering oneself to be superior or being without any kind of garva. Not being proud of oneself. And if you look at it, Bhagavan started with this value. Amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa. In 13th chapter, he started with this value. Now in the 16th chapter, when he closes all the good values also, he is ending with this value. Same, amanitvam. So obviously he associates a lot of importance to this value. Humility, being humble, is a very important virtue. Why so? Why so? When we start, we have to have being humble, and then at the end also we need to be humble. Because when we start, we feel superior, or we feel good about ourselves because we have achieved so many things in this material life. We think the manitvam can come out of anything because of the power that we have, the position that we have, the age on our side, the youth. It could come out of the education that I have, the birth, the family that I have been born into. All these things can give me pride, garva. So first thing we have to understand is, for us to actually pick up any of these values, we should not have this superiority complex. So that's why we started with that. And then why does Bhagavan end here? Because while we are reading or understanding these values, we would have got all these values. Suppose if we get some good values, we have been able to incorporate some good values into our personality, then too we should not feel superior. It is a general tendency that the moment I am doing good, or the moment I feel I am a better person, better human being than the other person, I start feeling superior. I start thinking high of myself. So Bhagavan wanted to start with that, and Bhagavan also ends with that. As we actually progress spiritually, we will see a change in our personality. We will be able to, meditate much better. We will be able to do kind of vak tapas. There will be a lot of tejas coming into our face. Our whole personality will improve, and it will be visible to others as well. And therefore, when we are progressing spiritually, it is also important at that point of time to make sure that this does not go into our head. Because what happens generally, there is a feeling that we start to look down upon others who are not in this path. We will start considering ourselves to be a tapasvi, and we will start feeling that the others are not doing any spiritual sadhana. We will start feeling that they are wasting their life and we are actually progressing faster. That kind of superiority complex can enter our mind. So, to not have that, Bhagavan mentions this again. Because whenever we get some good qualities, we will also get a bad guna, like a side effect. So that's why Bhagavan starts with this value and ends with this value. Whatever good qualities we are able to imbibe, we should not feel high of ourselves. We should not think that we are worthy of worship by any other person. We should still remain rooted, grounded, and we should not lose focus of the final goal. It is okay for others to feel, if they see us as somewhat high, if they put us in a high pedestal, it's okay, because they see some value in us. But we should not let that affect us. We should still be grounded, rooted, and we should pursue our spiritual. We should pursue in our spiritual path. remember at any point of time, it is all Ishvara Prasada. Whatever we are getting is all Ishvara Prasada, whether it is good, whether it is bad. So we should take it as Ishvara Prasada. The quality that we are able to reflect, that is also an Ishvara Vibhuti. It is a Ishvara's reflection that is getting, Ishvara's quality that is getting reflected in us. So it is not us. We should all offer everything to Bhagavan. That is what is called as Naatimaanita. Naatimaanita. This feeling is, we can get this feeling when we have accomplished something. For the time being, what we should understand, we are still doing sadhana. We have not accomplished the final goal. So there is still work to be done. So there is nothing to feel accomplished here. So right now we shouldn't think of Amanitvam, where we should be only focused on being humble. Make sure that we are still pursuing all these values. We are actually doing sadhana to imbibe all these qualities. So we should not feel high about ourselves. This is important. So that is Naatimaanita. Now, in the second line of the same sloka, Bhagavan says, Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Daivim Sampatam Abhijatasya Bhavanti Bharata. A person who is born with these Daivi Sampat, with having these gunas, a person born with Daivi Sampat will have these gunas. That is what Bhagavan says in the second line. So in the second line, what he says, Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata, it means Daivim Sampatam Abhijatasya Bhavanti. A person born with Daivi Sampat will have all these qualities. What are the qualities? The 26 qualities. Abhayam, fearlessness, Sattva Samshuddhihi, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi, Dhanam, Damaha, basically sense control, Yajna, worship, Swadhyaya, chanting, reading books, scriptural study, Tapaha, then Arjavam, straightforwardness, Ahimsa, Satyam, Akrodaha, Tyagaha, Shanti, Apaishunam, Daya, Mardavam, Hrira Chapalam, Tejaha, Kshama, Dhritihi, Shaucham, Adroham, Naatimaanita, all these qualities, if a person born with Daivi Sampat will have these qualities. That is how he enters. He completes this section of 3 slokas. Now this is actually will raise a question now. Is the quality something that we need to be born with, or is the qualities that we need to acquire? See, when a person is born, some are born into a wealthy family, some are born into a family of very famous people. And then some people may claim, my grandfather had this land there, he was actually Jamindar there, or he was a Tahsildar there, he was actually working for the king, or he had that business. We always feel, proud about our lineage. And then there are also some people who are born with inherent some kind of physical issues also. Some people are not born with normal physical body. So physically, there could be some difference in each of us when we are born. The family that we are born into, there is also some difference from people to people. In the same manner, when we are born, even the mind has some samskaras which has been built over many births. Remember, this is not our first birth. This may not be our last birth. So we are not being born for the first time. So every one of us, every child will have its pravritti. We say pravritti whenever they are born, even before they start their life, they collect some samskaras in this life. That's why we see, even if there are two kids in the same house, they have the same parents, same upbringing, same food, but their likes and dislikes will be different. Because their likes and dislikes have been brought from their previous births. So, which means we are already born with some gunas. We have to understand that. This is one part. Everybody is born with some gunas to start with. Second thing is, in this life itself, what happens due to our experience, due to the effort that we put in, due to the surroundings that we have, we gather new gunas. And we might also change some of our existing gunas. So when we are born with some qualities, and as we grow up also, there are some qualities that we imbibe. And because some people are born with some good qualities, some people are born with some bad qualities also. So that's why we say certain good values come naturally for some people. For example, some people have this inherent habit of donating things easily. See, dhanam is not very easy to donate to somebody, to actually do something for others. It doesn't come very naturally for many of us. But for some people, it comes very easily. Some people may not have any problem in sharing or donating this. That is because they are inherently born with that quality. Whereas for others, it can require a lot of sadhana. It can take a lot of effort to get there. So, some people, some of the values come naturally. For example, we have seen, Karna, when he is born, right from his birth, he is known for his dana. He has always been able to donate anything that a person wants. It came naturally for him. It was his swabhava. But for others to follow it, it will require practice. It will require tapas. It will require some effort to attain some values. It could take lesser effort. Some values for us to imbibe will take a longer effort. That depends on our samskaras. Whatever samskaras we are bringing in this life, it really depends on that, in terms of how much of effort we have to put in to imbibe a good quality or a good value. And that is what Bhagavan is actually referring here. Bhagavan says that these gunas that can be seen in people who are born with Daivi Sampat. So these 26 values that I have enumerated, you will see them in people who have this Daivi Sampat, samskaras. So if our Daivi Sampat gunas are less, then we will have to put in more effort. Remember, it does not mean that if I come in this life with a samskara, it is not mandatory for me to leave this world also with the same samskaras. We should strive and make ourselves better persons. See, some people they could be born with not so great health, right? They might have some problems at very early in their life. But what they do, by being disciplined, they might be able to gain health over a period of time, and they are able to live longer. That's because of the effort they put in, the discipline they show. it's the same thing in terms of the good qualities also. We have a choice. Just like physical health, just like financial health, the mind also need to be healthy, and the mind also and we need to put in some effort to maintain that health. We can either damage our mind or we can improve our mind depending on our habits, the books we read, the kind of friendship or the sanghas that we have, the interests we cultivate, the desires we develop. All these things will directly impact the mind. And remember, suppose if we are not able to imbibe a good value, do not lose hope. What we require is just a little more effort. So we just need to put in that effort. And we need to understand ourselves better here. What is the biggest problem for us? We need to understand ourselves. Some people might have this lobam, greed, as the biggest vice or biggest problem. Or some people might have fear as their biggest problem. So the weaknesses could be anything depending on what we are or what our samskaras are. And we will have to work on that. We need to identify our weakness and we need to put that effort. And when we are doing that, a lot of things will come to our help. Ishvara Bhakti definitely will help us. On top of it, having this understanding on karma theory, that will also help us. It will help us not to be fatalistic, but it will make our willpower stronger. We know that whatever we are getting is because of the previous samskaras. So we just need to ensure that we do the right thing from now on to be able to reap the good will at a later stage. Karma theory basically helps us to say all this sukha dukkha that I am enjoying today is a result of my actions of the past. So there is no question of being fatalistic. So I will just ensure that I will work on what needs to be done. So how am I today is the result of my actions of yesterday. Therefore, how I will be tomorrow will be depend on the actions of me today. So when Bhagavan says, people who are born with these values are called as Daivi Sampat, or people who are Daivi Sampat are born with these values. Basically, Bhagavan is indirectly referring to the karma theory also here. So some are born with Daivi Sampat, some are not born with Daivi Sampat. Which means, why they are born? Because they have done certain things, certain sadhanas in their previous janma. We just need to understand, and therefore we will have to put in more effort. So this is Daivi Sampat. And with this, Bhagavan has completed the Daivi Sampat portion, the 26 values. And remember, Sampat means wealth. This is the real wealth. All these values are the real wealth. Money is not the real wealth. These values are the real wealth. And these are not ordinary wealth. When we say Sampat, it is not Sampat, it is Daivi Sampat. It is divine wealth. So these qualities are very important. Remember, Bhagavan had given 20 values in chapter 13. That was given under the topic of Jnanam. Now 26 values, of course there are overlaps. Some were overlaps and some were new. So this is Daivi Sampat. Now in this chapter, Bhagavan, from now on until the end of this chapter, Bhagavan is going to discuss the opposite of these gunas. Basically, he is going to say Asuri Sampat. And here what happened, Bhagavan just gave all those values and we kind of dealt or did some vichara on each of these values to understand things better. But for Asuri Sampat, Bhagavan himself will be explaining a lot. he will talk about how these people with this guna will talk, what philosophy they follow, where will they end up. He will himself will give all these things in this chapter, including what sort of character they will be, all those things. So from now till the end of this chapter, it's more on Asuri Sampat. So we will go on to the next sloka, sloka number 4. Dambho darpobhimanascha krodha parushemavacha ajnanam chabijatasya parthas sampadamasuri. Dambho darpobhimanascha krodha parushemavacha ajnanam chabijatasya parthas sampadamasuri. So Bhagavan says, for a person who is born with Asuri Sampat, they will have these kind of gunas. And in this sloka, he is giving 6 gunas as examples. Then in the next 2 slokas, he will give the phalam of Daivi Sampat and the phalam of Asuri Sampat. What is the benefit, or what is the benefit of having Daivi Sampat, or what is the outcome, what is the result of having a Daivi Sampat, or what is the result of having Asuri Sampat. After which he will continue with Asuri Sampat in detail. But before we go on to this sloka, let us do a small vichara on Asuri Sampat. As I said, the Daivi Sampat comes out of predominantly Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna person will have Daivi Sampat. So which means Asuri Sampat comes out of Rajo and Tamo Gunas. Asuri Sampat we can say, or Rakshasi Sampat we can say. Both are okay. And remember, whatever gunas, Asuri Gunas we are going to see from now on, we have to understand that it will bring down ourselves. It will not just bring down ourselves, but it will also bring down the people around us. So Asuri Guna is very strong in the sense it will drag us down as well as drag people around us also. It will bring sorrow to us as well as people around us. It is called as Swapara Nashakam. Asuri Sampat will bring Swapara Nashakam. And Bhagavan will actually explain all these things. Now, when we are listening to Asuri Sampat, what should be the attitude that we should have when listening to Asuri Sampat? That we will see. Number 1, do not have any kind of guilt feeling. The first thing we find is, when Bhagavan describes this Asuri Sampat, if we are honest to ourselves, we will start thinking, how come Bhagavan is able to describe me perfectly? How is Bhagavan able to read me so well? This is the honest feeling that one will get. The reason is, we have so many hidden Asura Gunas. These Gunas are only known to us. We do not want others to know. We do not present this face to others. But Bhagavan will be able to identify each one of them. So, as Bhagavan describes these characters, these gunas, immediately we will start getting a guilt feeling. And we will start thinking, am I a papi? There could be getting a feeling of a general bit of disgust. So these are all warnings I'm just going to give, kind of shock absorbers before we come to the gunas. Remember, the guilt is necessary. Some bit of guilt is necessary. That guilt is necessary because only then we will not commit any kind of mistake. But it should not go beyond a level. Once it goes deep, that guilt, it will impact us. The problem is we will lose faith in ourselves. We might even start getting an aversion on the subject itself. So we might get a aversion about ourselves, we might get an aversion on the subject. So we have to be careful about this. If we look around, we would start feeling that everybody seems to have these Asuri gunas. Whoever I am looking at seems to have these Asuri gunas. So if that is the case, then we should tell ourselves, well, it's okay. Then it is okay. I should not dwell too much deep into it. I should be able to do some bit of change in myself. I should be able to do some sadhanas to change myself. So this is one kind of emotion that we might get, this kind of guilt feeling. We have to be aware of it. Some bit of guilt is okay, not too deep into it, and we should not let that discourage us. That's number one. The second thing is, we should not, this is one kind of emotion. The second emotion that we might do is, we will start justifying. That also we should not do. We should not justify. See, instead of guilt feeling, what will happen is the other opposite happens. We will start justifying the character here. Some people might say, we cannot live in this world without having all these kind of gunas. This is a kind of necessary character one should have to be able to survive in this world, or to be able to be successful in this world. In fact, this feeling is worse than the guilt feeling. So we should be aware of that also. We should not get into that mode also. For example, Bhagavan in this will say, Asuras lie. Which means if we say, anybody who lies is an Asura. On this, some person might, show me a person who does not lie. This is a way to justify what I am today, and to justify that I will not change, to ensure that I will not change. Some people might even say, even in Mahabharata, Bhagavan himself lied. So that kind of questions they may put in, or it says it is not possible to live without lying. All these things, or they might even justify that lie. I lied because of these reasons. I don't lie, but I lie because of these reasons. Some kind of justification we will try to put in. We should avoid doing these things. We should avoid justification. So whenever a weakness or issue is pointed out, the general tendency is to justify that. And the justification is that it is not there in me, but it is needed for this present day world. So this is the biggest problem. So we have to avoid that. Generally what happens is, whenever we find some issue or a fault, or whenever somebody points an issue or a fault in us, we normally go into a 4-step process. You can see this, typically it happens, a 4-step process. Whenever somebody says you are wrong, or whenever somebody says that you are at fault, or whenever somebody finds an issue in us, the first step, what we do? First thing we say, we claim we do not have it. We will argue with them to say that their reading of us is wrong. We wouldn't have done an honest introspection. We would want to stop that discussion, and therefore we will first argue that we do not have this bad quality or the fault that they are pointing out. That's the first step we do. Suppose it's been very evidently proved that we have it, then we go to the second step. The second step is, we say, or rather we claim that I do it because it is necessary. say, first thing they say, for example, you get angry often. Then we say, justify we don't have anger, and we get angry for them to say, because they are saying it. Now it gets proved. So then we say, okay, we start justifying that. We justify our attitude because it is necessary, because you actually made me get angry, or things like that. We try to put the blame on something else. So we justify because it is necessary for us to have it. Suppose they say that actually, if that also gets disproved, saying that okay, it was not the other person who had triggered us, but we are having this problem, then we go to the third step. The third step is basically we say we are no different from others, or rather it is needed in this world. Everybody has it. What is the problem? Everybody gets angry, everybody lies. What is the problem? So we try to get to the third step. Then we say, okay, even if that gets disproved, to say, okay, look, it is not necessary to have it. There are also people who don't have it. Then we go to the final step. We say, we just point out to the other person, who are you to point these things out? After all, you are not a saint. You have this problem yourself. If you not this problem, you may have some other problem. So that is the fourth step we take. So this is normally, we have this tendency to go into this 4-step process. When we are discussing this Asuri Sampat, we should ensure that we don't go into this 4-step process. We should have that self-honesty. We need to accept where we are wrong, and we need to accept it without any shame, not to others, to ourselves. Remember, this is not about others at all. It is about ourselves, being honest, self-honesty. We need not proclaim it to others that I have this problem. It can be a secret within us. But the important thing is, we should be able to look at things objectively. That is important. For example, we don't like jealousy. Jealousy as a feeling, we don't like it. But when somebody points out this mistake, somebody says, I'm jealous, I don't like that, I would want to justify it, or I would want to say that I don't have it. But what happens is, whenever we are pointing out some mistake on others, we would start with this statement. I'm not saying this out of jealousy, but that itself means, when we say but itself, it means there is some inherent jealousy there. The problem is, we don't go deep into our personality. We don't give enough time for ourselves. We don't introspect. We don't sit and actually think, what are the thoughts? When I did this class on meditation, I said, what we need is actually some time alone, where we are able to sit and see what thoughts come to our mind. What kind of thoughts come into our mind when we are alone, when we are not doing anything. At that point of time, that will definitely tell us what kind of personality we are. So at that time, we have to self-introspect. We'll have to do this introspection and then say, who am I? What are the issues that I have? And suppose we look to say, okay, the reason behind is jealousy. So why this jealousy? So we have to introspect deeper into it. So justification, that should not happen when we go through this Asuri Sampat. The first attitude is do not feel too guilty. The second is do not justify. The third attitude that one should have is Shraddha. Shraddha in ourselves, in Ishvara. suppose I realize that I have this bad quality, then I should have the trust, I should have the belief that I will be able to change myself with the help of Ishvara. So that Shraddha I should have. So these are the three things that we should understand or we should have when we are listening to this Asuri Sampat. To summarize, should not have too much of a guilt feeling. A little bit of it is okay. We should not be justifying things at all. We cannot even say a little bit of this negative quality is okay. We should not try to even justify at that level. The third thing is there should be complete self-honesty, and we should have a self-belief that we will be able to change ourselves. Remember, Bhagavan has given only 3 slokas for Daivi Sampat. But for Asuri Sampat, he has given 23 slokas in this chapter. So we should not let that discourage us. Another thing, important thing to note is, after going through these slokas, we will get some insights into every emotion. When we are discussing emotion, we are doing this vichara on every emotion or every character. We get those insights when we do this vichara. And with these insights, what happens is when we start looking into the world with this new learning, we will be able to start noticing the issue in others quite easily. And what happens? Immediately we start judging our others. And what we start creating a list and says, oh, this person is an asura, this person is an asura, he is an asura, she is an asura, all those things. So that also we have to understand that we should not be, we are not here to judge others. It doesn't mean that we should not notice these things. That will come, but don't try to judge others on that. It is not for measuring others. Because as we do the vichara on these gunas, we will be able to understand, observe these gunas easily in others as well. But do not give too importance on that. The focus should be on ourselves. The knowledge that we gain is more for measuring ourselves and not to measure others. Bhagavan has given, our Shastras have given this knowledge for self-benefit, to make ourselves aware of what bad gunas that we have so that it doesn't get into our personality. So remember that. So with this note or point of caution, we will go into the Asura gunas. Daivi gunas, we went a little bit of depth in each of these gunas. Asura gunas, we will look into the definition and then we will focus more on the consequence of having such a guna. So we will go with that. So with that, we will go with the sloka number 4 again. So Bhagavan says, Dambo Dharpo Bhimanascha. So Bhagavan says, these are the these gunas, Krodha Parushyema Vacha. So he says, these are the gunas that they are for people who are born with Asura gunas. These are the qualities that a Asura guna person will have. And the first thing he calls out is Dambam, Dambaha. We saw Amanitvam, Adambitvam. So the opposite here, Dambaha. Dambaha means it's called as showing off. And here Bhagavan or the commentary writers have actually talked about showing off the good karma. People showing off the bad karma is even worse. But here Bhagavan or the commentators have said, Bhagavan talks about showing off good karma also as a bad quality. We say this, in Tamil we say Pagat Garvam. Pagat Garvam, or we say Dharma Dvajitvam. Basically, whatever Dharma Karya I have done, I want to show it off. Saying I did so and so, I did so and such things. That is considered to be a Asura Guna here. So anything good that I achieve in my life, I should not show off. Whether it is in my life, in my job, in sports, in education, I have actually achieved this in my job. I have got a promotion. I have got this particular house, or I have completed my PhD, whatever, this kind of showing off. And this showing off is in the form of words. It can be in the form they act, the behavior, the body language, the way this particular person sits, the way the particular person dresses. So it can be either Vesha, it could be either Bhushanam, or it can be Bhasha. Vesha, Bhusha, Bhashanam. Vesha, Bhushanam, Bhasha. So it can be in the form of dress, it can be in the form of ornaments or whatever you put around, or it can be in the form of words. So Bhagavan says, if we have it, we'll have to remove it. Again, warning, don't look to the next person or the other people around us to say whether they have it. It is not for us to judge others whether the others have it or not. It is for us. Dambaha. Then the next one is Darpaha. Darpaha means, this also actually means Garvam. And here, the context here is disrespecting elders. Darpaha means disrespecting others. In Tamil we say Timuru. Darpaha. So in the previous guna, Dambam, it is about showing off. Here it is about putting down others, disrespecting others. And here, as I said, the context is elders. So elders when we say, it can be in terms of relationship, they are elder, say a teacher, student, whatever, or in terms of age, or in terms of position, they are elders. So putting down the other person. So there could be, in some families, the elder brother may not be that rich, or the elder sister may not be that rich. So disrespecting them because they are not that rich, or not financially equal, that sort of attitude, having that sort of attitude is called as Darpaha. So, or Garva, I can say. So that is the second Asuri Guna that Bhagavan talks about. Then he talks about Abhimana. Abhimana is nothing but again Manitvam. Abhimanascha. Abhimanaha means again Manitvam. Thinking high of oneself. This superiority complex. And this superiority complex can be due to Jati. Jati means birth. I was born into this family. I was born into this particular lineage, whatever. Or it can be called Kulam. Kulam means Jati is basically what kind of Jati actually means birth. But here I am using the word Jati to be mentioned of the 4 Varnas. So I was born into this particular Varna. That kind of a superiority complex. Then it can be out of Kula. Kula means out of the family. I was born in this particular family of musicians, or I was born in this family of high achievers, all these civil servants. Or it can be even a garva that comes out of achievement, tapas. So I have done so and so, I have been able to get this kind of good quality. That is also called as abhimana or manitva. So that should not be there. And remember, that's why we have all these kind of stories in our Puranas. To it is kind of exaggerated in Puranas to ensure that we do not have all these things. For example, we had this kind of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu, he had this garva out of the tapas that he had done. He had got this tapas where he had got this boon that he will not be defeated by human or animal in day or night, all those kind of things. He had that enormous amount of garva that he felt equal to or more than even Bhagavan. So all these exaggerated examples that are coming from are given in our Puranas for us to ensure that we do not have these values. So Abhimana, we can say a feeling of arrogance or self-importance, that should not be there. Dambha, Tarpaha, Abhimanaha, then Krodha. Krodha, anger, we know that. We have seen this in Akrodha in detail. Now, if Bhagavan says Krodha is a Asuri guna, so whoever has anger is now an Asura. Then the question now will come to know, we'll have this question, then who in this world has got Daivi Sampat? Because everybody seems to have anger. And therefore some people might even question, Daivi Sampat is there only in the book. No, it won't be with any person. Or some people might even argue that these are all only for theory, not for practical life. It cannot be practical. These are wrong notions. We have seen anger in detail when we discussed Akrodha. Krodha, when we discussed anger there, we talked about anger that comes out of hatred, anger that comes out of impatience, anger that comes out of jealousy. That particular anger is what is referred as negative value. Anger as an emotion can be shown but should not be there within our mind. Showing anger is different from having anger. There are certain places where we should show anger whenever something wrong, some adharma is going to happen. At that point of time, it is important for the person to show anger to ensure that adharma does not happen. Of course, we should not take it in our mind. We have to be careful. We should not make that into a habit also. Because if we keep showing anger, soon it will become our swabhava also. So anger can be shown in certain places when it is not for selfish reasons. But at the same time, it should not be too frequent. That is akrodha, anger. Then the last one, parushyam evacha. Parushyam evacha. Parushyam is opposite of softness, that roughness. We remember in Daivi Sampat we saw Mardavam. Mardavam means that's gentleness. We saw gentleness. Opposite of that is Parushyam. Severe, harsh. In Tamil we say Kadumai. There we saw Mardavam. So if a person commits a mistake, we say, if somebody commits a mistake and you are in a position where you have to deal with it properly and there is a need for you to give punishment, you will have to give punishment, but treat them gently. Because there should not be any personal agenda within that. So give them punishment only to the extent of the mistake that they have committed. That is called as Mardavam. But here, Parushyam means, here if we are punishing more than what they should be punished for. then it is called as Parushyam. And remember, I am talking about a point where, about only if we are in a position where we are supposed to give punishment, not for positions where we are not required to give any punishments. I'm talking when you are a judge, or when you are a parent, or when you are in a responsible position in a company and you have to give certain things. And Shankaracharya, in this commentary, he says Parushyam should not be there even in words. So which means we should not hurt others by saying. So sometimes what happens is we try to hurt others by saying things that they don't have, or by saying things that they may feel bad about. For example, there is some people do this kind of what I would say, sarcasm. They use sarcasm, and they use sarcasm as a joke. So for example, if a person is having some issue with the eye, you may say, oh, he's got a wonderful sight, and then they laugh. It is to actually, it's sarcasm with the intention to hurt the other person. That is even worse, and that is what Adi Shankaracharya calls here as Parushyam, hurting others. So we should not hurt others. And Parushyam is also about, when there are people who do not treat, the subordinates properly. Just because they are reporting to us, just because they work for us, treating them badly. For example, say, I'll call the driver. I mean, the driver has got a name. We can use that name to call him. We can always say, I can call him, if the driver's name is Krishna, I'll call Krishna, or I'll call this person name. Calling them by the work they do in order to hurt them or make them feel that they are actually working for yourself. That is also called as Parushyam. He has a name and he should be called with that name. Calling driver as driver is a way to remind him that he is inferior. Calling a maid as a maid instead of calling her by name is a way to make her feel inferior. All these things. Sometimes for joke, we bring down or hurt someone. So especially in these days, jokes are, joke means somebody has to be made fun of. Then only it's called as joke these days. So even the important thing is, when we crack jokes also, we should not inadvertently hurt anybody. Unknowingly also, we should not hurt anybody. That is called, if we hurt, that is called as Parushyam. That should not be done. That is Parushyam. Ajnanam is the next one. We will see Ajnanam and the rest of the Sloka in the next class. Any questions or comments? Okay. If not, we will see again in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha. Gobhramanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah.